I'm very glad that you have taken up opening your lips on issues which are very pertinent in the current times. And of course, today's topic is very topical also. That's what is going on in the country. A lot of things, there is a confusion. Hinduism, Hindutva. Mr. Veer Narayan was reminding me about that Justice Verma judgment about Hindutva as a way of life. So there are so many things. I don't know how many of you have seen the one recent issue of India Today, in which some 10 writers have talked about their understanding of Hinduism and all that. Now, of course, why we should be talking about religion in the public space, and when we, in a way, not many of us are experts of religion. Like, I'm the last person to call myself as a theologian or somebody who has read all the scriptures of different religions about which one keeps talking. Because from last many years, in a way, politics has been wearing the clothes of religion, if I want to put it like that. It is politics which is camouflaging itself in the name of religion, and that is operating at two levels. One is at global level. If we see global level, just in a short way, in summary form, I understand the politics of control over oil has taken again a name of the religion, and that is a single particular religion. In whole of South Asia and different parts of the countries, if we see in the name of religion, more particularly in India, but even in South Asian context, we see Sri Lanka also partly Buddhism, Myanmar lately Buddhism in a great way. They have also come into the public sphere. So what is this whole phenomenon where a lot of confusion comes in between politics and religion? Probably I can begin with India. I can probably begin with freedom movement. I can probably begin with British coming to India, after which practically this some sections of society present their political aspiration in the language of religion. That's how I will put it. So please bear with me, because it is not a very simple topic. I'll bring in Hinduism a bit later, because Hinduism is the core. Of course, Hinduism has a lot of specificities, and I'm sure each of us has one's own definition of Hinduism. That's in a way very strong point about a religion. Because Hinduism in a way is not based on a single prophet. It doesn't have a single deity. We have many of them, and it doesn't have a single holy book. So it is a sort of a compilation. Some editor has done a compilation of different streams of religions prevailing in this part. Somebody has put together different religions prevailing in this part under the umbrella of Hinduism, and that of course also came in over a period of time, more of it later. Now in India, what happens that when we see that history is not a continuum in a single way, that first kingdom is there, then that nation states, democracy, etc., etc. India had a very peculiar way of coming to grips or trying to come to the notions of democratic society. We know that, of course, today there is a lot of hatred, much of which is derived from the medieval time. Medieval time, one reason being that some of the rulers in some parts of the country happen to be belonging to the wrong religion in the current way. Muslims, like from Alauddin Khilji to Aurangzeb to this Ghori, Ghaznavi, and these are some of the favorite hitting targets for the constructing the present hatred. And that, of course, but I must say that even in that time, in a way, the kings were not drawing too much from the religion. Sometimes, of course, the kings were not uniform. Babur was not like Akbar. Akbar was not like Aurangzeb. Shivaji was not like Rana Pratap. Rana Pratap was not like Samudragupta. He was not like Ashoka. So all, of course, but today we try to feel that Hindu kings on one side, excellent. Muslim kings on the other side, very bad. So this is the obverse of what is there in Pakistan. In Pakistan, of course, it is much more interesting. That is all great Muslim kings, and Hindu kings don't matter. So first is this whole obsession with the kingdoms. And that obsession has also come, I think, because of a particular thing which one can try to understand as communal historiography. Complicated word, but a person, I am not a historian, I am nothing, whatever my background has been told you. What is this simple communal historiography? Now, communal historiography is a way of looking at history through the prism of religion of the king. Now, of course, kingdoms are there for multiple reasons, and the central part of the kingdoms to me is the system of extraction of tax from the toiling peasants. That is the central part of it. But barring that central part of extraction of tax from the peasant by the king and the whole structure, we see everything of a king. He was this, he was that, he attacked Chittor to get Padmavati. We will be very passionate about that. But what was the sort of a taxation system, how it changed, what are the plight of the people and all that. So this whole communal historiography, which was practically purposely introduced by the British. 2-3 examples lately I'll give you. One example, of course, we all recall, actually that was a turning point for my life, this Babri demolition. And Babri demolition, when I tried to study, there was one core point which came to my mind, that how did the whole doubt began, which ultimately culminated in our that Rath Yatri Advaniji saying that my Lord was drawn precisely at the spot where Babri Mosque is located. How did it come about? So I tried to locate that this came from one translation of Babar Nama by Mrs. A.F. Beveridge. Now, she describes Ayodhya, she describes Babri Mosque, but she puts a star there and adds a footnote. Please see the beauty of the footnote, and please see the beauty of the strict. What is the footnote she had? This is a mosque, but probably a part of it there might have been a temple. The seed is sown. People can water it properly, and then that can lead to the demolition of it 100 odd years later. Then this latest controversy about Alauddin Khilji, how communal historiography came to be, I am trying to explain. About Alauddin Khilji, I think I'm forgetting the name of the JNU historian who recently wrote in The Wire a brilliant article about how Padmavati was born, not in the king's house, but from a fiction to history. So how does he trace it that in 1303, I may be wrong by a year or two here and there, just forget that. But in 1303, Alauddin attacks Chittor, and the two major books which come out after this attack, one by Amir Khusro, another author I'm forgetting, both the books mention the whole thing about the attack on Chittor. None of them says that there was any queen or king's daughter called Padmavati for whom the attack took place. Now, around 240 years later, Malik Mohammad Jaisi, in his classic novel Padmavat, comes with a fictional, poetic novel, etc., in which he picks up the history of the name from Alauddin Khilji and makes a fiction that he attacked it for Padmavati, he could not get it. Actually, it was a philosophical novel trying to give a message that the earthly power is meaningless. You may not get what you want, something like that, etc. So from that also then popular people picked it up. Bards picked it up, and they spread it like a popular poems to be sung in the villages. Now, so far, she did not become history. She becomes history in 1801, when James Todd, basing himself on the popular narratives which are going on the villages, said that this was the whole story which currently is being represented. So this communal historiography, by whatever designs it was introduced, tried to present Hindu kings on one side, Muslim kings on the other side, totally forgetting that Muslim kings had Hindu officers. Hindu kings had Muslim officers. Some very popular ones which I'll give you, you of course know, I know that you must have knowing all these, but just to recap our foundation, like Akbar had this Birbal, and Akbar's the role of Arun Jaitley was being done that time by Raja Todarmal, right? Very simple. Now, in our Maharashtra, of course, you must be knowing that we are all gaga about one of our great kings called Shivaji. You land up in Chhatrapati Shivaji terminal, and if you go back by train, you land up in Chhatrapati Shivaji railway station, right? So, of course, Shivaji is there everywhere. But problem is that Shivaji has been presented as if he was enemy of Muslims because he killed Afzal Khan. Now, that's a very interesting thing. Afzal Khan is going to meet Shivaji is going to meet Afzal Khan, and he is going without any armaments, without any sword, etc. So his bodyguards tell him, sir, where are you going? Shivaji says, I am going to meet Afzal Khan. He says, you are going without your arms. He says, yes, I am telling it in the form of a story. Then he says, Afzal Khan is taller than you. And Afzal Khan, if he was alive today and was wearing ready-made shirts, his shirt size must be 5 times more than that of yours. He must be XXL. You are medium size. So he can very well kill you. Don't do that, don't do that. Take this iron claws with you. And that's the weapon with which Shivaji killed Afzal Khan. But the point is, who advised you that take this iron claws? The name of that person was Rustam-e-Jamal. He was one of the 12 of the 18 bodyguards which Shivaji had. And Shivaji has, incidentally, his chief advisor was a person called Maulana Hyder Ali. And he had multiple, around 35% of his soldiers are Muslim. But today, of course, in Maharashtra, more so, you must be knowing that one particular party in his name, trying to be, so far of course we are very lucky, last 10 years they are not beating up others too much as they were doing earlier, but all that was done in the name of Shivaji. And Shivaji was one of the most benevolent kings. And what I love about Shivaji, that he reduced the tax burden on the people. But in our mind, Shivaji Hindu, Afzal Khan Muslim, so many riots are sparked in the name of this. And when we are talking of this, we all forget the whole syncretic tradition, syncretic culture which India developed, in which Malik Muhammad Jaisi writes about this culture, in which Ras Khan writes poems on Krishna, and all that, it is full of that. And the biggest embodiment of this, of course, comes in the form of that great Shanghai maestro who used to live in Banaras and all that. So all these meeting points which we had in the country, barring that, what got projected was mainly that Muslim king versus Hindu king. And this was a tool in the hands of British to pursue their policy of divide and rule. Now, how did this whole come up? Actually, I coming to think of it, during freedom movement, three types of historical narrations and 3 types of nationalism came up. Please note, again, nationalism debate got heating up, JNU debate and all that. I will not come to that. But all this which happened at that particular time, this was not around religion. Now what happens with British coming, they implement their policy of plunder. Now this is again in contrast to what the rulers who had settled here were doing. Rulers from Alauddin Khilji to Aurangzeb, for example, they were living here, they were extracting, doing all the things which the kings do, and dying here, becoming a part of this thing. In contrast to this, British were colonialists. Their primary goal was plunder, and of course I always forget the name of Shashi Tharoor's brilliant book, which describes what type of plunder they did in this country. Now, so with this British policy, of course, I don't see, I can say that there are 2 classic things about which I see about British rule. Manmohan Singh once visited England, London, where he complimented the British that you gave us the modern administration. He's also right. Shashi Tharoor on the other side, in Oxford debate, says that British plundered us thoroughly. He's also right. So these are 2 sides of the same story. Unless we see this complexity, we can't understand. Anyway, with this coming up of transportation, communication, and modern administration, the new social classes started coming up. Now, what are these new social classes? Broadly, of course, this is, I have to make it slightly short and bit of a modeling time. So 3 major social classes: industrialist businessmen like Tata, Birla, Bajaj, Singhani and all. Then the working class, the workers, and third, the modern educated classes. Now these are the people who are away from madrasa or a gurukul or a seminary. Again, Lord Macaulay, some people are regarding him as a god. Some people are saying that, oh, this Macaulay has brought all the Western things here. Again, 2 sides of the thing, whatever we want to. Now with this new classes coming up, the old classes, see, if I can explain this, my basic job will be over. When the new classes are coming up in France, some parts of Germany, they throw the old classes with their old values in the dustbin of history. India, because it is a colony, new classes come up, old classes continue. What are these old classes? These old classes are landlords, rajas, and of course in a bit of a Hindi I will use Raja, Nawab, Zamindar, Jagirdar. Now, as the new classes are coming up, it is not just industrialization. It is just not modern education in the formal sense. Along with this, education is reaching to the newer sections of society. Who are these newer sections of society? These are Dalits, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and of course, the best part of it, the same education is also reaching to women. So on one side there is Jyotirao Phule, other side there is Savitribai Phule. So this whole process, which is a first step in the journey to equality, liberty, fraternity, this is the first step in that. Even that step becomes sort of a threatening to the landlords, rajas, nawabs, etc. So when these changes start occurring, their power structure starts getting tottering. They start feeling that something is amiss. It is our old privileges, our old social importance is not there. So what they say is very brilliant, according to them. They don't say that our power is under threat. They say our religion is under threat. So on one side, the Muslim Nawabs and Rajas will say, Zamindar will say, Islam khatre mein. And exactly, believe me, parallelly, Hindu Rajas and Hindu Zamindar says, Hindu Dharm khatre mein. Dharma is not under khatra. The danger is not to religion, danger is to their power, perks, privileges, which they used to enjoy because of the feudal system of society. Society has not totally changed. It is just beginning to change. Education is seeping, modern administration is coming, industrial class is rising, new administration is laying its foundation. With that, the three type of organizations come up on the ascending side. What are these type of things? These are just representative organizations. There must have been many more. What are these three representative types? One represented by the likes of Sardar Bhagat Singh. I'm not giving a chronological history. I'm just putting it together conceptually. Sardar Bhagat Singh in organizations like Naujawan Bharat Sabha. Second, Bhimrao Babasaheb Ambedkar, Republican Party of India. And the third, and the biggest, and the most representative of our country, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, Annie Besant, Sardar Baldev Singh, and Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Don't mistake me, I'm not talking of Sonia Gandhi's party. I'm talking of Mahatma Gandhi's Indian National Congress. Please note the names of these organizations which are coming from the rising classes. Naujawan Bharat Sabha, Republican Party of India, Bharatiya Rashtriya Congress. Now let's come to these Rajas and Nawabs. These Rajas and Nawabs, first they feel threatened. So initially they come together with each other. So the Nawab of Dhaka, Raja of Kashi, coming together in an organization. But of course, British are not fools. They are also smart. So they invite the Muslim component of this to Shimla, the summer capital probably in 1906, when they declare that these Muslim landlords and Rajas, they are the representative of Muslims of India. And that's how they also feel, yes, we are the representatives, and Muslim League comes to be formed. So what will happen to the remaining component, the Hindu part of it? So they first come up as Punjab Hindu Sabha, and in 1915, Hindu Mahasabha. So I would like you to breathe for a second, think for a second, and try to see the pattern of difference in the names of this side, pattern of difference in the names of this side. When I see this side, Naujawan Bharat Sabha, sorry for repetition, Republican Party of India, Bharatiya Rashtriya Congress. And what is here? Muslim League, Hindu Mahasabha. So they are not representative of Hindu or Muslims. They come from the elite landlordish sections of society initially, but later on they come to be joined by brilliant people like Jinnah, Savarkar, and the whole lot of middle class, elite, lawyers, etc., etc. But that happens later. So this is where religion comes into the popular space. It comes into the public space. That is the origin I am trying to say. So on one hand, Muslim League, other hand, Hindu Mahasabha. So of course, Muslim League had its problem easily cut out. They want to tell the people, oh, we are the representative of Muslims. Their problem is easy. Why? Because Islam has a single prophet, single God, and a single book. So here our poor fellow Savarkar has a problem. Savarkar, of course, he was anti-British revolutionary, and he was sent to Andaman jails. In Andaman jails, this, so far I call it as Savarkar Volume 1, where is anti-British. From jail, the Volume 2 begins. And in Volume 2, he comes out with the ideology of Hindu nationalism. Why he is poor fellow has a difficult task? Because Jinnah has a simple job. Jinnah doesn't has to explain what is Islam, what are Muslims, etc., etc. So he falls better. Savarkar has to explain what is Hinduism. And Savarkar has, of course, first he explains Hinduism. What is Hindu? Who's a Hindu? A person who regards this land as a holy land and fatherland. If you are, I think I have not drawn from Hitler, fatherland is his word only, okay? Why you use fatherland is his problem. Okay, so one who regards this land as a holy land and fatherland is a Hindu. And then he says Hindutva. Hindutva is not just Hinduism, it is total Hinduness. Hinduness totality, for him, what is the totality of Hinduness? Number one, Aryan race. Aryans come in. Number two, this land from Sindhu to the sea. And number three, the culture. Now here, that's where the confusion comes, and I'll try to explain my little understanding of Hinduism. As I was trying to say, that Hinduism, the word Hindu itself is a very late introduction. It is around 7th or 8th century that word Hindu comes into being. For what does it come to be? Hindu word first is used for the land which is on the eastern side of Sindhu river. And who are the people who use this word? The people who are coming from west, they call, because in their language the word Sa is used less often, so Sindhu becomes Hindu, so that's the first use. After that, the religious traditions which are prevailing here. Now what are the religious traditions? Now broadly, Romila Thopper describes these traditions in two sections. One is Brahmanism, another is Shamanism. Now Brahmanism is the tradition which is based on the birth-based hierarchy of caste and gender. Like what Purush Sukta says, how were the four Varnas created, and from that, from head Brahmins, from the arms Kshatriyas, from the thighs Vaishyas, and from fruit Shudras. So this is how the caste system is described, and this is how the central part of Brahmanism is this Varna caste system. So Savarkar, when picking up from all this, takes up this culture as a broad word. Now what it turns out to be later, that Hinduism first defined here, and later on it is during British period that the word Hindu becomes more consolidated. It comes to be used for all the religious traditions. Now there is a Bhakti tradition also, there is a Nath, Tantra, Shaiv, Siddhant, etc. There are different traditions, but the word Hindu, by and large, denotes Brahmanism as Ambedkar understands it. So what does Ambedkar say? Ambedkar says Hinduism is Brahminic theology, and this he tries to represent in the form of that its basis is scriptures. Primarily when he talks of scriptures, he's referring to Manusmriti. So here, I hope I have explained the word Hindu as per my understanding. Hindu religion, first phase, of course, begins from 10th to 11th century. Then the word Hinduism becomes broader, and all the traditions are also lumped in to this word Hindu. Of course, all of us can draw either from Bhakti tradition, or from Brahminic tradition, or from Shaiv's, other things. And like recently, this Rahul Gandhi, he also said that I am a Shiv Bhakt, something like that. So people have a lot of leeway and lot of space. So people pick up Hinduism according to their own particular choice. But by and large, the Hinduism being used as a base of Hindutva is a Brahminical Hinduism according to my understanding. Brahminical Hinduism, which I will try to see, and for that I will also go to a bit of Ambedkar, because Ambedkar on one side says that Hinduism is Brahminic theology. On the second hand, he also identifies the root of caste Varna system in Manusmriti, and that's how it takes him to burn Manusmriti. And same Ambedkar, who burns Manusmriti on one side, goes on to become the chairman of drafting committee of Indian Constitution, by which we take oath and all that, which is a embodiment of values related to liberty, equality, and fraternity. Now, very interestingly, the same time when Hindu Mahasabha initially, and later on RSS. RSS also begins with the word Hindutva, and later on one more word is added, that is Hindu Rashtra. Hindu Rashtra means, of course, there are their own way of saying that we are all Hindus. So a lot of confusions are brought in. First was brought in, I think, in 1990 by Murli Manohar Joshi, when he said all those people living in India, they are Hindus. So you sitting there is a Christi Hindu, he there is a Ahmadiyya Hindu, and I am Hindu. Excellent one. So that again is confusion. So you can take the confusion the way you like because of the beautiful complexity we have. Here comes Gandhi. He is also Hindu. He never disowns Hinduism. Till the end he says, I am a Sanatani Hindu. I can give my life for my religion. But that's my personal matter. The state for whose fashioning I am working, that state will not be guided by either Hindus or Muslims or Christians. So what is basically the difference between Hinduism, Hindutva? First, within Hinduism also, there is, I will say roughly, a Hinduism followed by Gandhi, which in a genuine sense is inclusive, incorporative, and which has no hesitation in saying that Ram and Allah are the same universal spirit. That is one side. And other side, there are Hindus who will swear by different things, but they, by and large, will stick to the values which indirectly will support the caste and gender hierarchy. One blunt example I'll give you. On one side I see there is Ambedkar, who burns Manusmriti, thinking that this embodiment of caste and gender hierarchy, I stand to oppose it, and he burns it, and he goes on to be the architect of Indian Constitution. On their side, recently, of course, a lot of debate was there when Ananta Krishna Hegde, I don't know whether I'm right saying that, he said BJP is here to change the Constitution. And then if you trace right from Savarkar to Golwalkar to Deen Dayal Upadhyay, the three tall giants of Hindu nationalist politics, they all in a way say that the laws of Manu more eternal, and Savarkar goes on to say Manusmriti is the law today. Golwalkar again says our constitution has not much point because it doesn't refer to the laws of Manu. RSS mouthpiece organizer goes on to say that this constitution has no meaning because it does not refer to the laws of Manu which have been eternal and central to our life. So this is here where I see there are again three types of nationalism I was saying. One is a Hindu nationalism, Muslim nationalism, and Indian nationalism. Now how are they different? Because, as I pointed out, that the root of this politics in the name of religion, politics in the name of Hinduism, if we concentrate, as I pointed out, I have a second point I would like to say, that it is from last probably 100 years at the worst, that a phenomenon called fundamentalism comes in. This comparative thing I want to bring in because the first fundamentalism which became overt was not Muslim communalism, not Muslim fundamentalism, but Christian fundamentalism. Christian fundamentalism as a word came to be rooted. And why it came to be rooted? That in 1920s in America, there was a social change, social ferment, because of which the Negroes, sorry to use that word, African Americans and women, they started coming to the social space. At that time, the conservative Christians, older sectors, they said that what this is happening is against the Christian ethos. That's how they came up with 10 books called Fundamentals. And so similarly, I feel that in the countries where the democratic processes start setting in those countries, certain sections who are not comfortable with the democratic values of genuine liberty, equality, fraternity, or a march towards these values, they bring in religion as a cover to bring in the values of caste and gender hierarchy in a very, very different way. So Hinduism, of course, as I pointed out, that it is a very complex way. Second point. Now, these people, by and large, it may be Christian fundamentalist, Islamic fundamentalist, or Hindu communalist. By and large, their politics is concerned more about emotive issues. So there are two types of issues. Ambedkar will talk about social justice, Bhagat Singh will talk about economic justice, Gandhi will talk of a fraternity for the country. But in contrast to this Muslim nationalist or a Hindu nationalist, by and large, they will be focusing on emotive issues. Issues which can generate emotions, because of which these emotions, the blindness, the insanity, which can go and do the mob lynching of somebody who's suspected to be eating beef, or somebody who's skinning the cow, dead cow, etc., etc. So inciting the emotions is the severest part of this. That's where I come to this, that religion has multiple components. Now, what are these multiple components? I broadly divide it into two parts. One is where I put as morality. Like here, morality also, many religions have contributed in their own way. When there is a sentence called Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, or love thy neighbor, or take care of your neighbor's needs, or all men are brother. These are the types of morality which different religions contributed. While on the other side, we have all the things in the religion. We have scriptures, we have different rituals, we have holy places, we have places of worship, etc., etc. So, by and large, the hysteria, emotions are created around what I call issues of identity. And if you see in India, that's the whole tragic that last 40 years, particularly since, 35, 40 years, since this Ram temple issue came up, our emotions run very high. There is of course a minority communalism also, which keeps precipitating it, and these two communalisms, which one incites, another is a real menace, they keep competing with each other and increasing the polarization of the society. Now this polarization also we see that any violence you take, it is very clear that by and large, there are some people who orchestrate the violence. Like the recent one you see, there is a lot of people like who have studied this communal violence. This is by and large not a spontaneous thing. It is orchestrated by something, and there is a goal behind that. A goal behind that is also of polarizing. And this is mainly because emotiveness of all these issues becomes extremely important. So here I'll also link it with three types of nationalism I was talking. One is Indian nationalism, which said that India is a nation in the making. Taking into consideration the different processes introduced by British, taken further by Indians, and also the social equations between genders, between castes, which were changing. They called it as India as a nation in the making. On the other side, Muslim League, they resorted to going back to the history, saying, since Muhammad bin Qasim attacked Sindh, ruled Sindh, since that time we are a Muslim nation. Now, not to be left behind, Hindu communalists took it much further. They said, oh, you are a Muslim nation since Muhammad bin Qasim came. We are a Hindu nation since times immemorial. I don't want to bring in the Darwin debate. That will complicate the matters a bit too much. So that we are a Hindu nation from times immemorial. So the concept of nation gets lost to me. That earlier hunter, food gatherer man was a Hindu nation, number one. Number two, hundreds of them. Then comes the nomadic tribes, the likes of which Aryans came to India, or wherever that be the origin of Aryans, nomadic tribes, that also is a nation for them. Then kingdoms, anyway are nations, because that is their central mark. So this whole blending of history into religion is what is around identity issues. I must say on the other side, moral values also develop. Moral values also is, I think, one of the biggest contribution of religions, which probably many times is overlooked. And some of the sincere elements, when they write in India today or other things, what is their Hinduism, they will come out the best and most lofty sentiments and values which are inherent in any religion. But in practice, what comes out is some people who want to divide the society for their political gains. There is nothing that they want to have in this particular form. So a lot of things are coming up, and I must say that Hinduism that way, complicated as such. Secondly, there are issues related to morality, and I personally hold the saints, be it Sufi saints, Bhakti saints, or even the people like Mahatma Gandhi. For them, religion was primarily morality. How you deal with the society, how much love and compassion you have for the social being, these are the people. While rulers, whether religion was an incidental thing for them. And for today's people who are doing politics in the name of religion, for them, the identity of religion is central. That's why Padmavati becomes very important. That's why we are unable to control the violence. So it's probably a violence held by silence from the top. We are not able to control. We are not able to control the lynching in the name of beef, I don't know how many how many really care for the cow, because I still see hundreds of cows roaming on the street, eating the plastic bag and having kilos and kilos of plastic in them. Probably those who really care for the cow should be taking care of that. But that is not the concern. Concern is how to demonize other in the name of your religion, and this is the most convenient tool to keep the power, to increase the power and to strengthen the power. So this is my understanding, that today, probably Christianity, somewhere in Christian right, Islam at a large scale in Pakistan, Afghanistan, many Muslim countries, it is being abused. And in India, the biggest victim of this politics is the morality which is inherent in Hindu religion, probably morality inherent in the same tradition of Hindu religion, morality which was a central credo of person like Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. And that's where what is painful is that in the name of that, a particular section of society is also, there is another angle also, there is also a period when economic policies are leading to deprivation amongst the large sections of society, who become again vulnerable to be the foot soldiers, so-called fringe elements, which anyway are not fringe elements, but they are part of the division of labor which particular political organizations unleash. And of course, this is where I think I would like to conclude that Hinduism, number one, it is a different type of religion. It is not emerging from a single source like Islam or Christianity, where from a single source you will have divisions into Shia, Sunni, Khoja, etc., etc. Here, different streams merge, come under a single umbrella. One. Then again Hinduism, two tendencies, Brahmanism, caste and gender hierarchy, and Shamanism, Nath, Tantra, Shaiv, Siddhant, and other traditions. Number three, today this politics of Hindutva primarily resorts to the identity-based issues, and that's how it is able to divide the society. So friends, when we are discussing this, I urge upon all of you that one is not against religion. It may be Maulana Abul Kalam Azad who said that yes, I am a Muslim, but I don't support partition, I don't support the politics of Muslim League. Or it may be a Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi who said that I am a Hindu, but I oppose this politics in the name of Hinduism. And probably that's why years ago on this day, 3 bullets were put in his chest by a votary of Hindutva. So for me, Gandhi is Hinduism and Godse is Hindutva, to cut it short. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Puniyani. I think after hearing his talk, you must have got what I was